All right, so. Okay, well, it looks like all of you are back from break, except for the ones that aren't here. That's pretty profound, isn't it? Huh? Think about that. I didn't say that. Christ has not resisted them. Somebody read 5:6b.
He does not resist your.
That's it. That's it. Okay. Resist is antitacetai. That actually wasn't too hard to read. It means set himself in battle array against you. Think of battle array. Think of some of those Romans versus whoever movies that you've ever seen in your life. You know, with the shields and the arrows and all the different things going back and forth. Battle array. You know, if you want to modernize it, think about, 95 tanks lined up against Israel ready to invade. I often wonder why they haven't done that. All of those countries that hate Israel today so much, why don't they just take all the tanks that they all have, all the armament that they all have, and wipe out Israel?
Did they try that in '67?
It would.
They tried that like 1 year war.
And I think they got spanked so bad they're scared to do it now.
Oh, the 1 year war, right?
I forget how long it was. It was called the Yom Kippur.
The Six-Day War.
Six-Day War. Yeah.
6
They were outnumbered 100 to 1 in armament and
Still lost.
Yeah. And I think that was still. I think that would happen again today. I think you want to see the Lord's work in action. Okay, where are we here? So battle array, present tense. Anytime you hear present tense, of course, it means continuous action, now and like forever. Middle voice means he is benefited by his action. It means if I do something and I receive a benefit from it, that would be called middle voice in the Greek grammar. If you do something and it benefits me, I believe that's called passive voice. If I do something and it benefits you, that's the active voice. And so when you're not trying to teach you grammar, try to teach myself how to remember all this stuff. It is important for us to understand the distinction between salvation and fellowship. This does not mean that there is no discipline for disobedience. God the Father disciplines us. But Jesus does not set himself in battle array against us. This means he was submissive to our sins and did not resist the cross. It is in the present tense because his blood keeps on cleansing us from all sin. Even though that event occurred 2,000 plus years ago, or whatever the grammar comes out, or whatever the math comes out to be. So he keeps on not setting himself in battle array against us. Thus we are to go about our ministry and not lay up treasure for ourselves, but to depend upon God for our provision. We are to walk by faith, not by sight. In the wilderness, God only provided enough manna for each day. And I think many of you remember what happens if you try to collect extra manna. It would rot and, worms and all the other yucky stuff. In paragraph 15, stop complaining and be patient. Okay, yeah, there you go. Well, I heard a couple oofs on that one. Stop complaining and be patient. No, say it isn't so. That boggles a mind not easily. That boggles a mind not easily boggled. Remember that phrase? That's pretty. I had a lot of fun with that one. This section of the epistle deals with the original issue of the book of James. James has written to the members of his congregation which have been scattered as a result of severe persecution. The purpose of the letter is to encourage them in the face of continuing persecution. In chapter 1, he told them to consider all testing as a matter of joy. He further explained that they would be able to do that if they understood what testing will produce. Patience followed by spiritual maturity. Get to the RMA, the relaxed mental attitude, and go on up to the penthouse of inner happiness in that graphic portrayal of the structure. He instructed them to develop divine viewpoint. And if they lack an understanding of how to apply divine facts to their circumstances or situation, to ask in faith, and God would give them that wisdom. Do you trust in the Lord? And then underscore that. Do you really trust in the Lord? It's not on your text there. In the midst of the letter, he has pointed out some of their misery is self-inflicted. They have received this misery as a result of sins of prejudices, hatred, gossip, envy, strife, and pride. And, you know, some of us, frankly, probably collect all of them in a day. He has called them murderers because of their hatred. Jesus taught that hatred was the same as murder. Note the Greek word which is translated hate means to deny one's claim. We must not associate this with Webster's definition, a strong feeling of dislike or ill will. It's not the same thing. The English word is based on feeling. The Greek word is based on mental attitude, a mental attitude which disclaims any responsibility toward that person. Now, at the end of the letter, James develops a summation, probably, concerning persecution and growth. I don't know if, I'm going to look it up, see if there is a word like that, but I doubt it. 1, bear up courageously. Somebody read those verses there, 5:7 through 8a.
So be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waited for the precious fruit of the earth, and had long patience for it, until he received the early and latter rain. Be ye also patient.
Exercise restraint with an attitude of confident expectation. Be patient, makrothumesate, means maintaining a quality of self-restraint in the face of provocation which does not hastily retaliate or promptly punish, and maintains an attitude which does not surrender to circumstances or succumb under trial. The opposite of despondency, absence of anger. Aorist tense means in a point of time. Imperative mood means a command. Maintain this attitude until the Lord comes. Scripture quote, unto the coming of the Lord. Yes.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask this a little while ago, but the word hate, you said the English word is based on feeling?
Yes.
And the Greek word is based on what again?
Attitude.
Attitude, thank you.
An attitude that you should have. Okay.
That we should have?
Yes. Yeah. But it's an attitude which does not surrender, as is quoted there, to circumstances. Maybe an example would be we have a flat tire and it's raining. What's our attitude going to be?
Anger.
Okay, but what should it be?
Patience.
Patience.
Just do it.
Whatever you have to do next, yes. Whether it's just sit there and wait for AAA, I'm probably not supposed to endorse commercial products, but if it's to wait for roadside assistance of some sort, or get out there and change the flat yourself, or whatever it takes. But anger is not something that you really want to get out there in the rain and start changing flat tires and all those sorts of things. But the hate that they're talking about is simply that, you know, the Cain and Abel thing, you know, one gave a sacrifice of first fruits and the other one gave a sacrifice of something else, and he was hated. That doesn't mean that God didn't like him. It just means that because he chose a more sinful path, that he had no responsibility for him. That's not exactly the way to phrase that, but definitely not. Somebody doesn't hate me because of, well, actually some people do hate me because of the way I look. Certainly several people hate me because of the way I talk, but maybe they should learn how to talk themselves, you know, be a little judgmental there. But to hate me for that, that's just hate. That's not the same thing. You know, get a better definition of that from maybe one of your other teachers as you go through it, if you haven't already. I've never had to walk through that question until now, so maybe I need to prepare myself better again. Okay.
Isn't having hate sometimes healthy?
Yes, it is. If you're a guy like me and you hate cheesecake, that would be very healthy.
Yeah.
But hating for people, if you hate sinning, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's healthy for you, not to just like everything's okay. There's certain things that you need to hate.
Yeah, hate the things that are evil unto you, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But don't start defining what evil is in your own capacity. Yes, sir.
What about, because I used to smoke. I started smoking when I was 14 years old, so then I was trying to quit smoking, and then every time I go back to smoking, I'll stop smoking for like a month, and then I'll go back to smoking. I will hate the fact that I will smoke again. But then, since I felt guilty, I'll try to stop smoking again.
Okay. I'm going to talk to that topic specifically, but I'm going to render a gesture first of all.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I started smoking when I was 11.
Okay.
By the time I was age 12, my parents were buying my cigarettes for me.
What?
Yeah, what? Seriously.
Yes.
You know? Seemed cool to me. Yeah, I was the only kid that could walk to school with cigarettes in my jacket. You know? Got suspended one day for 3 days because I had a pack of cigarettes in my jacket. Didn't know anything at all about illegal search and seizure back then, or I would have popped them for that. Because, you know, I was in junior high, I didn't know any better. Besides, when you're in junior high, suspension for 3 days is great, you know. But what that led to was 3 packs a day. Now, I'm in the military, and you all know, many of you know that. I think today everybody here heard me say something about my military time. The Air Force, of course, has the mildest of the physical training requirements. You know, we're not Marines. You know, in the Army, you know, all we had to do at the time, that most of the time that I was on active duty, all we had to do to prove our physical prowess was to be able to run 1.5 miles in a specified period of time, depending upon your age. I quit in 1978. Excuse me. I don't usually say quit. I stopped. I had my last cigarette in 1978. But I was already in the Air Force for 11 years. How fast or how far can you run if you're smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day?
It's hard.
Not very far.
Can you even walk that far? I will tell you to testify to you, no. So how did Don nicely pass his test each year?
Copy's very good.
It's no longer indictable. Got people that would pencil whip it, as we call it. Pencil whip.
Mm-hmm.
With various inducements for the person wielding the pencil.
You need people that know people.
So, I'm coming back to you. I'm not finished with you yet. So, 1978, I stopped smoking. Somewhere along the line, I attained enough of rank that I had to go to something. Didn't have to go. I could have declined it, but then I would have to get out of the Air Force. But I had to go to something called the NCO Academy, Non-Commissioned Officer Academy. 6 weeks of training where we're living in a dormitory. The Air Force doesn't have barracks. We've got dormitories. If you want to know more about that, I'll tell you later. But anyway, we had to live in a dormitory for 6 weeks. I happened to be close enough to my base that I could go home on weekends if I wanted to. But the academic requirements were pretty tough, and so I had to really think about that. But I thought that number one, I was going to get weight checked when I get there, and weight was always a problem for me in the military, always, you know. And then found out that they don't do weight checks there. They said that's up to your home unit to take care of that. But they did require that we start an exercise program. So for $29.95, I bought a pair of Hush Puppy running shoes, brand name Hush Puppy, and I went out to the quarter-mile track that we had and walked part of the way. Gave up before I got all the way the first day. But then by the time I was done there, I was running 1.5 miles, finally. Not fast, but I was running. I wasn't walking, you know. And eventually I got to the point where when I retired from the military after 24 years, I was running a routine 6 miles a day without any problem at all. Uphill, down. I like uphill better than downhill. I don't like downhill running. I like uphill running or level. But having got, and the reason I'm saying that is because your lungs get clear. You know, back then they said that you can have a reasonable supposition if you can get past 5 years without getting a lung cancer, you're probably going to be okay. Well, 78, as I said, was the last time I had a cigarette. That's a lesson for you. Think about that. If you go back to it, and you know, I mean, anybody is, you don't have to raise your hands, but if anybody in here smokes and has tried to quit and has successfully quit, you know that, gosh, for me, the first hour was incredible. For me, sitting up in bed before I lit up was incredible. Smoking 2 cigarettes while I'm shaving. Guess how easy it is to shave and smoke cigarettes. Tried smoking in the shower, but that didn't work too good at all, you know. and my family, you know, riding down. At that time I had one child, my firstborn son. You know, riding down a street and it's raining, so the windows are rolled up and I'm smoking. Wife, kid, and me. My firstborn son did have some respiratory issues. He did. He himself is in the Air Force almost 23 years right now, so he got past his respiratory issues. He never picked up smoking. Corona, however, is a different thing. So,
Your daughter's name's Corona?
You sure are a quick wit or something that rhymes with it. Ponder that one for a moment. So my admonition to you in all love, don't, because you know, get past that 5 years and all those others, and you know, I have a cartoon that somebody drew of me, and I worked in a place called CBPO, Consolidated Base Personnel Office, and somebody drew a cartoon of me cracking a whip because of how militantly anti-smoking I became after I quit for a good year or two, you know. But anyway, back to the lesson at hand. You ever feel like you need to smoke?
To be honest with you, yeah, sometimes. But it's just, I think it has to do with the bad having the way I think, because I used to love smoking when it was cold or when I was stressing. But like before, when I did stop smoking for a month and then I went back to it, it wasn't about, because I felt it didn't feel good. It was just about either the smell or just doing with the hand, or it was just a part of a bad habit. But the way I felt, I didn't feel good at all.
Yeah.
I felt dizzy. The first cigarettes.
Yeah.
But if I kept on doing it, then I got used to it.
Sure you do.
Yeah.
Sure you do.
But the first cigarettes, it didn't feel good.
Yeah. Well, the tobacco industry loves that effect that it has on people.
Yes.
They make a lot of money on that. But you got a public stern lecture. How about that? Huh? Don't do that. And any of you, seriously. I had to ride in a car the other day with a guy that smokes pot, and it was physically extremely difficult for me. I kept I was just one step away from retching and doing all kinds of different things. But all right, let's get back. Where are we, Ken? Do you remember? Maintain.
Yeah, we're right at B. Maintain this attitude until
Okay, maintain the attitude until the Lord comes. The motivation for patience is the Lord's coming. The confident expectation expressed in the word makrothusate is based on the coming of the Lord. The length of time to maintain this, coming unto what? Maintaining this.
Coming unto the Lord.
until the Lord comes.
Okay. The illustration of this command is the farmer, the husbandman, waiting for the precious fruit. Husbandman is just a word for the guy that tends to the gardens, tends to the agriculture, the products, while they're growing. Georgos means a farmer, waiteth. Ekdekatai means to look expectantly for the precious fruit. Means the production from his labor, and hath long patience. Makrothumon means self-restraint, and then the grammar parts there. As a matter of principle, for it means over it, the crop. Early and latter rain means idiom for the proper season or the appointed time. A reaffirmation to exercise restraint. Verse probably 5a. Be ye also patient. Again, patient, makrothusate. Exact word and form as in verse 7 above. Follow the example of the farmer and exercise this self-restraint until the proper season, the return of the Lord. Stabilize your hearts. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draweth nigh. The command to stabilize your functional mind. Established, sterikate, means making fast, set. This is a reference to firming or stabilizing the mind. Heart is cardias, used as an idiom for the functional mind. When we say have a heart, we're talking about the mind, not the blood pump. Yes, sir.
When did you accept the Lord?
When did I accept the Lord?
When were you born again?
I was 44 years old when I accepted the Lord, if that narrows it down for you. It was in 1994, and I don't remember the exact day, but it was in May, sometime in May. I'm usually not a kind of a guy that remembers dates that at the time it was striking. I mean, it was a surprise to me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't something that I felt that I needed to write that down because I want to remember that date for the rest of my life.
Okay.
Perhaps I should have. But 44 years, and if you ever look up the definition of the word debauchery, that's what my life was up until then. And debauchery it's a pretty powerful word, pretty extremely negative, but pretty powerful word nonetheless. And ever since then, and there's a testimony that goes with that about how that came about.
Yeah, for what reason?
Pardon me?
For what reason did you accept?
You know, many people in this class have heard this already 2 or 3 times, but if you want to do it after class,
Yeah, sure.
if you can hold yourself away from the sumptuous repast that you're going to have available at 12 o'clock
Yeah, I can do
to
that.
eat, I'll tell you the story.
Alright.
I'd be happy to do that.
So what? Presumptuous.
Sumptuous repast.
You're confusing them.
Yeah, that's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you. But there's probably dictionaries. Ken, do we have dictionaries on the book back there somewhere?
You can look it up right here. Yeah.
Okay.
there's some right up.
Well, I don't know what I wanted that to be on the video, but go ahead.
Oh, no.
The words, yeah, but the definition. The means of firming or stabilizing the mind is given in Isaiah 33. How about somebody reading that part? Just the italicized part without the quotes. Inside quotes.
Where's that?
It's kind of in the body there somewhere.
And wisdom and
Yes.
knowledge. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of the times and the strength of salvation. For the fear of the Lord is thy treasure.
That's it.
Wisdom.
That's far enough. It's a new quote there, Steve. That's why I'm cutting you off there. Wisdom means understand how to apply the facts to one's situation or circumstances. Knowledge means comprehension of biblical facts. I know some of you definitely have heard the discussion about the difference between knowledge and wisdom. I know a lot of people that got a great deal of knowledge. Sometimes I wish a few of them would get a little bit of wisdom in the process, but that's a part that comes after the knowledge. And then it's the applying the knowledge that you have and your own abilities to be able to arrive at a different conclusion or arrive at conclusions. This is a command. It's in the imperative mood. The Lord will soon return. Means a reference to the rapture. Draweth nigh. Anglican means has drawn near and is imminent. I should have my book here. Perfect tense means a completed action of being imminent. Indicative mood means a mood of reality. Stop grudging other believers. Somebody read 9.
Grudge not against another, brethren, lest ye be condemned. Behold, the judging standeth before the door.
Stop groaning inwardly. That would be grudge not. Stenadzite means to groan inwardly. Don't we do that? I mean, we do. You know, when we see somebody doing something that we think might not be the most appropriate thing in the world, don't we just kind of say, and you know, we kind of want to. Some of us probably want. Never mind. I'm not going to put that on the video. Yeah. Some of us become exceedingly and abundantly annoyed. How about that? Is that better? Does that soften it somewhat? But yeah, and it happens. You know, I'd like to say that I'm such a great Christian man that that's never happened. It does. It does. But we groan inwardly. This cannot be accurately translated murmuring, as is found in some translations. The King James Version is a good translation with the word grudge. There are 3 Greek words for murmur. None of them are used here. The word used here means the unexpressed feeling of sorrow or grief. Against, that's kata. This preposition indicates that they had a feeling of inner unexpressed sorrow or grief against other believers. Another, alelan, means another of the same kind, believers. Their stewardship was in danger of being evaluated, lest ye be condemned. Condemned, krathete, means to evaluate without condemnation. They were not in danger of being condemned. Their stewardship was in danger of being evaluated. None of you who are saved ever have to worry about or wonder about your salvation. But are you doing the Lord's will? Are you using what you know? Are you out witnessing? If you're not, you're not being a very good steward of what's given to you. Let me go on this one more, and then I'll come back to what I want to say. The judge has taken his stand before the door. Behold, the judge stands before the door. Christ was positioned to evaluate them. Given the quality of the student that I was in high school, I remain to this day completely astonished that I even graduated from high school. It wasn't through any good deeds that I did, I can guarantee you that. The only thing I excelled at, and some of you have heard this, it's part of my testimony, was detention. I was extremely good at detention. I racked up many hours of it. And then we'd transfer schools and it would go away. And I'd start all over again. And I was lackluster is probably the kindest word I could describe in terms of my academic achievement. Could have had A's in a few subjects, definitely would have gotten F's. I definitely did get F's in algebra. I took one year of algebra, I got a C and then straight F's. I wasn't a model student, unless you use the word model as a smaller image of a larger thing. Then I might be a model student, but other than that, no. The fact that I'm standing here right now and presuming to teach a college level course, which is what this course is, and any of the courses you get from any of the other instructors that I know of that come here, you're getting college level instruction. Some of them are probably wonderful academics in their high school careers and their college careers. Not me. Not me. I think probably all my teachers are gone by now. Probably I helped a few of them to get a lot older a lot quicker than they otherwise would have. But that's something of stewardship. Now I stumbled into it. Whatever got me going to Channel Islands Bible College and Seminary, and whatever got me to start to actually enjoy going to school. Hello. My first class was in 2004. I'd been to one or two college courses. I got an associate degree as an administrative assistant while I was in the Air Force. But that was drudgery. I wasn't interested in pursuing anything in that arena anyhow. But when I started taking Bible college lessons, I started getting really excited. And I started having a whole lot of fun. So what you're getting, from my beginnings, I stand amazed. And totally a God working, but God's working in all of your hearts. And so when you feel the tug of God on your heart to do this or do that or not do this or not do that, please pay attention. Okay? You never know where you're going to be 10 minutes from now, 10 years from now. I did have at one time, talking especially to the gentleman that asked me when I became a Christian, I did have an expectation that I was not going to live past the age of 42 for some inexplicable reason. I have no idea where that came from, but I always had that idea that I was going to be dead before 42. Thank God, literally, thank God that it didn't happen. And of course now whatever happens since age 44, when I've accepted Jesus, let it happen. I'm ready. My wife won't be ready when she starts trying to figure out what to do today because I didn't get my paperwork done, but that's another thing. Where are we? Okay, the judge. Consider the prophets as an example of the suffering you experience. Take, my brethren, the prophet who have spoken in the name of the Lord for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. The prophets suffered affliction. Kakaphathias means to suffer evil. Yet they were long-suffering. Macrothumius. They maintained a quality of self-restraint in the face of provocation. which does not hastily retaliate or promptly punish, and maintain an attitude which does not surrender to circumstances or succumb to trial, the opposite of despondency, and absence of anger. When somebody annoys you, particularly distressingly bad, don't you want to haul off and nail them? And don't raise your hands, but perhaps some of you have already done that. You know, if it happens to be one of those guys with people with the badges or whatever, it probably didn't work out well for you. And whatever else. But I was blessed with never learning how to fight. I knew pretty well how to be stupid, but I never learned how to fight, and so I got the crap beat out of me quite often. Probably should have used a different word there, but particularly when I was drunk. I was an obnoxious drunk. So you're an obnoxious drunk and you don't know how to fight. Not that a drunk can fight any better than anybody else anyway. And then I make mean comments to people while I'm drunk. How did I ever make it? That's probably where I started formulating that idea that I wasn't going to make it past the age of 42. If I hadn't slowed down on my drinking, in fact quit my drinking long before that, I probably would have been gone and absolutely, totally in hell. We consider those who have endured as having inner happiness. Remember inner happiness at the top of that structure, just under the roof? Inner happiness is gained through endurance. Macrozomen, probably an omega there, I don't know, means a plurality of inner happiness, says more than one. More than one. Present tense means continuous action. Indicative mood means the mood of reality. Endure is hupominantes, means to bear up courageously. I don't think of myself as courageous at all, but I do think of myself as somebody that's able to not immediately get angry at somebody. Doesn't mean that I wish they wouldn't be that way, but it does mean that I'm not going to get angry if I don't have to. Job is the classic. Job's endurance comes from hupomem, means bearing up courageously. This is a noun indicating the state of condition he maintained. The final outcome from the Lord, the end result provided by the Lord. The Lord keeps on being compassionate and full of pity. The Greek text says the Lord is very compassionate and full of pity, very compassionate. Wow, boy, that's going to get me there. Palus plankonos. I should practice these, but I don't have a lot of time to do that. Or I don't take a lot of time, to do that. It means an inner attitude of compassionate. Splanka means guts, innards. It was used to refer to emotions and attitudes. Pitiful. Oikterman means an outward manifestation of compassion. Thus we are to exercise restraint with an attitude of confident expectation until the Lord comes. Stabilize your minds through wisdom and knowledge. Stop groaning inwardly against others. Learn from the prophets and Job. Various admonitions concerning oaths, affliction, cheerfulness, and sickness. You know what? I know it's early, but I think I'd like to go ahead and break right there. Can you guys cope with getting out of here a few minutes early? Is there any major resistance?
I don't think Steve
Do you know what the words blanket party means? No. Hey, I learned that in the military. I didn't learn that necessarily in the ways that other folks may have learned that. Okay. Someone closes in prayer, please.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the precious things that you give us, and thank you for having John and Isaiah take some time out of this day to come teach us the Word and strengthen us to be better people in all aspects of our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.